Have you ever just stopped and looked around? I mean, really looked? The sheer variety of life on this planet is just staggering. From the tiniest bug in your backyard to the biggest whale in the ocean, it's this incredible, beautiful, and honestly kind of chaotic mix of living things. So the big question is, how in the world do we make sense of it all? Well, scientists have been tackling that exact problem for centuries, and they've come up with a really elegant system to bring some order to all this beautiful chaos. So let's get into it. This quote really hits home, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that feeling of just awe. Whether you're looking at a migrating bird or a weird-looking deep-sea fish, there's a sense of wonder. And it's that amazement, that curiosity, that really drives us to understand it all a little bit better. And just to wrap your head around the scale we're talking about, scientists have already identified and described somewhere between 1.7 and 1.8 million different species. And get this, we're discovering new ones all the time. This is that magnificent biodiversity, that beautiful chaos that we need to get organized. So, what's our game plan for this explainer? How do we go from total confusion to perfect clarity? Well, first, we'll look at why using local names for things is a recipe for disaster. Then we'll dive into the science of order, a little something called taxonomy, and the clever two-part naming system it uses. After that, we're going to open up life's filing cabinet to see how everything is sorted. And finally, we'll see how it all weaves together into the great web of life. Okay, so let's dig into the core of the problem. We all have local common names for plants and animals, right? But when you think globally, this creates a huge mess. Imagine scientists in different countries trying to study the same animal, but they're all calling it by a different name. Yeah, you can see how progress would grind to a halt. Let's take the common house sparrow as a perfect example. Here, we call it a sparrow. But if you go to Spain, you might hear gorrión. Pop over to Italy, and it's a pássaro. It's the exact same bird, just with a bunch of different names. To cut through all that confusion, science needs one single, universal name that everybody on Earth agrees on: Passer domesticus. And the official solution to this problem is a process called nomenclature. It sounds fancy, but it's really just a system to standardize names. The goal is simple. Give every single living thing one official scientific name that is known and used by everyone, everywhere. No exceptions. But, just giving something a unique name is only half the battle. So you have a name, now what? Where do you file it? How does that organism relate to all the others? For that, we need a system. And that's where taxonomy comes in. It's the actual science of classification, a super powerful and logical way to bring order to the entire living world. And this whole process follows 4 really logical steps. First, you start with careful observation. We call that characterization. You look at its features. Based on those features, you can then identify the organism. Once you know what it is, you classify it, which basically just means you group it with other things that are like it. And that final step, that's nomenclature, giving it that official universal name we just talked about. See? It's a simple but really powerful workflow. All right, let's zoom in on that last step, because the naming system itself is just genius. It's called binomial nomenclature, and its power is all in its simplicity. Binomial literally just means 2 names. This is the system that's used today, and we have a brilliant biologist named Carolus Linnaeus to thank for it. It gives every organism a 2-part scientific name, and it is the absolute gold standard for biologists all across the globe. And the whole system works because it's got these simple, universal rules. The name is always in Latin, and you write it in italics. So let's use a mango as our example. The first word, mangifera, that's the genus, and you always capitalize it. The second word, indica, that's called the specific epithet, and it's never capitalized. And that's it. Simple, clear, consistent. It works for every single species. Okay, so now that every organism has a unique name, where does it go? Well, think of taxonomy as a gigantic, perfectly organized filing cabinet for all of life. Every single living thing has its own special place in a system of ranks or categories. We call this the taxonomic hierarchy. This whole hierarchy is built like a set of Russian nesting dolls, or maybe a pyramid. At the very bottom, you've got the most specific level, the species. Then, you group related species into a genus. You group related genera into a family. And you keep going up and up, with each level getting broader and more general, until you hit the biggest, most inclusive category of all, the kingdom. And here is the absolute key to understanding this. The higher you climb that ladder, from species all the way up to kingdom, the fewer things the organisms in that group have in common. So, for example, a lion and a tiger are in the same genus, so they share a ton of characteristics. But a lion and, say, a starfish, they're both in the animal kingdom, but that's about it. They're very, very different. So, what does this all look like when we put it all together? This is where you see the real magic, the payoff. You see how this entire system takes the mind-boggling complexity of the living world and organizes it beautifully, showing us exactly how everything is related. This table just lays it all out perfectly. Look at these totally different organisms: a human, a housefly, a mango tree, and a stalk of wheat. Each one has a precise, unique address in this massive library of life. You can trace our own classification, right? We're in the order Primata. Now compare that to a housefly in the order Diptera. The system instantly shows us where we're similar and where we branch off. It's incredible. And this brings us to what might be the most profound point of all. This system is not just about organizing facts for a science class. The realization that all living things on this planet are related, that we all have a place in this gigantic, interconnected family tree, that was a truly humbling idea for humanity. It changed how we see ourselves and really kickstarted the drive to conserve the amazing biodiversity of our world. So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. If every single living thing, from you and me to the bacteria we can't see to the tallest redwood tree, if every one of them fits neatly into this grand, interconnected system, what does that really tell us about our fundamental connection to it all?